Okay, so at this point in my pregnancy journey story, I am in about the middle of my second trimester. Okay, so this is when it starts to get really crazy. So what led me to go to the hospital, I'm going to kind of touch on that first. So for a few weeks I was experiencing like really bad back pain. It was like back/side pain. And my belly just started getting big rather quickly, and it wasn't just the size of my belly, okay? So hear me out. It was the texture, it was very hard, and it was oddly shaped, and it was very veiny. And also, you could, if you looked at my stomach and bare belly, you would see your reflection. So it was very shiny. It was just weird. It was weird looking. And so all of those were kind of like major concerns for me, because this back pain was, I mean, when I say it was bad, it was like bad. I would wake up in the middle of the night because of the pain, and the only way I would fall back asleep is because I was just overly exhausted, and I'd wake up again in extreme pain. My husband, he tried a cold pack and ice pack. He tried massaging it out. Nothing really worked. It would like go away and then it would come right back. It was really bad. I mean, I'd wake up some mornings and I'd have to walk along the furniture because I couldn't support myself. It was uncomfortable, and it was weird, and I had no explanation for it besides I think it's back pain. So when I went to my doctor's appointment, which was my routine doctor's appointment, I made him aware that I was having this really bad back pain, and that also I was concerned about my belly. Like, it just didn't seem right. It seemed overly big for one, and for two, just it didn't look right. And he said, well, I mean, this is your second baby, so I mean, you're probably going to show earlier on anyways. Now my husband, with every doctor's appointment, from the very first doctor's appointment, he was concerned that I was already showing, and he made the doctors aware of that, nurses aware of that, really anybody he could talk to. He's like, does she look big to you? Is this normal? Does this look normal to you? Because it doesn't to us. And so he was concerned the whole time. And so the doctor just said that, you know, it's my second baby, I'm probably going to show earlier anyways. And yes, I was big, but, you know, it's a baby growing, so all right. And then with the back pain, he said that was perfectly normal with, you know, being pregnant. Your body's moving things around and it's pinching on nerves, things like that. So that's normal. If it gets really bad, just take Tylenol. All right. And I said, well, okay, I'm not going to complain about that. And I went home and I had already decided I'm not taking any kind of medication. I'm not taking Tylenol. I don't take it when I'm pregnant, much less when I'm not pregnant, anything like that. So I'm just not going to take Tylenol. I'm just going to like suffer. I'm going to work through it. Hopefully it goes away and the baby gets into a position where it's not going to hurt me. And so that went on for about, I would say the back pain for about 3 weeks. And then it got to a point where I woke up one morning and I mean, this specific morning, when I got a particular morning, I had to hold it. Like, it hurt even to touch. It was weird. And I went to the bathroom, and I have this thing where, like, I will look into the toilet after I go to the bathroom. When I'm pregnant or when I'm not, I just look into the toilet. And I am very, very happy I did that, because when I looked in the toilet, it was blood. And I'm not talking like little specks of blood, little drops of blood. I'm talking like red orchard juice kind of pee and blood in the toilet. And I didn't know if it was urine or if it was the baby, and I was like going through a miscarriage or something, because it's all gonna end up in the toilet anyway, so I didn't know. And so I went and told my husband. I got on the phone with the nurse for my doctor, and she said the doctor said go to labor and delivery at the hospital. So I did. My husband took me, and I want to point out as well, this is a little bit of backtracking, was I had just really strange numbness that would go on with my body. If I was laying on this side, I would go completely numb on this side. And then also it was, if I'd be sitting for too long, standing for too long, different parts of my body would just go numb. And on top of the back pain, you could imagine waking up and being in horrible pain, but then being numb at the same time where you couldn't move to fix your back pain. It was a mess, and it was like a domino effect. So I was like, okay, this is all happening pretty quickly. And so I went to the hospital. They got me in right away. They got me a room. They said, we're going to keep you. I kept having to pee in a cup, because that's what you do. I mean, with any doctor's appointment, any hospital visit, they have you like pee in a cup, especially when you're pregnant. And they said, yep, you are bleeding. We're going to do some tests. We contacted the doctor. So I was already admitted. They ended up keeping me for like a little over 48 hours. During that time span, I did multiple tests. So we did blood tests, they did ultrasounds of the kidney, ultrasound of the baby. They confirmed, I guess I should say, that I did not have a bladder infection, I did not have kidney stones, I did not have a UTI, nothing of that sort. And I had no infection at all. There was nothing showing up whatsoever, but they still had me on antibiotics and fluids as well, just to kind of flush everything out. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting no answers. Like, I'm having really bad back pain still. There's still blood in the urine, but it is lightening a little bit as, you know, the next day comes on. It's a little bit lighter. And then towards the end of my visit there, they confirmed that there was still blood in my urine, but it was just microscopic. So it was flushing out. Something was fixing itself, I guess you could say. So that was somewhat relieving. But I still didn't know what caused it. And they said, you know, pregnancy, crazy things can happen. So body does weird things in preparing for a baby. So that's the answer we have to take. But I do want to touch on my hospital stay. So with your nurses, you want to make sure you have good nurses when you're in the labor and delivery area, because for one, you want to be comforted, because I didn't know going in if I was miscarrying. I didn't know if I had a UTI. I didn't know what this back pain was, like if something like an organ burst or something. I mean, I had no idea. So going in, I'm full of all these questions, and I'm also kind of a little irritated because I had felt like something wasn't right the whole time, and then waking up to blood in my urine, I'm like, okay, this is kind of like telling me something's wrong. My body is telling me that there is something not right, and nobody can figure out what it is, okay? So while I'm at the hospital, I had a couple good nurses, and I had one very bad nurse. Like, I don't even know why she was a nurse, kind of a bad nurse. I'm going to talk about one of the good nurses, and I only had her for a brief period. So there was a point where they had done all these tests, and I would talk to all the nurses. Like, be like, oh, hi, how are you? How long have you been a nurse? Do you like what you do? All this fun stuff, and just kind of talk about like mom stuff too. And this one nurse in particular, like I said, she was really good. She was actually going on to be going on to her own practice, something like that. She was very, very informative. She was very smart, very good, and I just really liked her. So I confided in her, and I said, you know, look at my belly. Do you think this is normal, you being a mom and, you know, being a little more educated on this? What do you think? What is your opinion? She said, I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you. All your results came back negative and stuff. But I will say that in one of your results, your fluid levels were a little bit high. So maybe your doctor will talk to you about that. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about, but I'm sure that he will address that with you if it's a problem. And I'm sitting there like, okay. I'm thinking in my head fluid levels like blood, urine, maybe like a certain like bacterial count in my blood, like protein count. I had no idea what fluid levels being high meant. I was just like, okay, well, never heard that before. This is a first. And so I just went about my day. That nurse got switched out for this other nurse. Now, this other nurse, her whole demeanor and everything was just rushed and kind of sloppy and not very approachable. So she came in to take my vitals. Like, she put the blood pressure cuff on me, and she was just kind of like, oh, how are you feeling? This and another, asked me a bunch of questions, and what I wanted for lunch, I think, was one of the questions. And this was about 12 or so hours before I was discharged, or even knew I was getting discharged. And I'm still there, kind of like concerned. Some of the results hadn't come back. Like, I didn't know if the baby was okay, if my kidneys were okay yet. So I asked her about those, and she was going to get those results for me later on. And just to make small talk like I do with all the nurses, I asked her, I said, so how long have you been a nurse? Have you always wanted to be a nurse? And she said, oh, a little under 10 years, and no, this was my last option choice. Like, I never wanted to be a nurse. I never knew I was going to be a nurse. I said, oh, well, you must be excited just to be in like the labor and delivery section, seeing like births every day and just, you know, being surrounded by all this wonderful life. And she said, actually, no. I don't really even like babies, to be honest with you. And I kind of shocked, like not expecting that answer, was just like, just kind of blank staring. And I quickly, nervously in a way, changed the subject in a way. I said, well, you have any babies born today? I mean, that's going to be exciting. It'll make your day go by a little faster. She said, no, and I hope we don't, because I don't like babies, much less want to be there when they're delivered. And I, like, snapped on the inside. I'm just like, what? They have a nurse in my room when I don't know if I'm miscarrying, what's going on with everything, who just told me, confessed that she doesn't like babies. She doesn't like her job. Oh, and another thing, she said, well, I'm a nurse not because I like it, just because the pay's good. So it works for now. So that was another thing. I'm like, she doesn't even like being a nurse, much less like babies. And I don't know if I'm going to be delivering a baby. She's handling me, a pregnant woman who has all these concerns and now all these risks. And I'm in her care. So I didn't feel very safe. I felt very vulnerable and very like misunderstood, I guess you could say. So as soon as she left, I called my husband and I'm like, you are not gonna believe what this nurse just told me. And I told him the story and he's like, oh my goodness. He said, well, don't worry, you know, you'll get another nurse soon. And I didn't get another nurse soon. She was there for many, many more hours because I had another run-in with her where she came in and I told her, I said, you know, I think I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. Not pee bathroom, but the other one bathroom, because I haven't gone in a while and I've been eating and you guys have me on these fluids and these antibiotics and I just feel like I'm gonna have to go. Now, being that's the case, I've never been constipated before. Okay, there's no other way to say that, but I don't want to go into like too much information, but at the same time, we're women here, and hopefully I'm reaching somebody else who's pregnant and maybe experiencing the same thing. So I'm just going to lay it all on the table for you. But no, I had never been constipated before, so I didn't know what to expect. So I told her, I said, you know, could you get me some kind of laxative? Because in a couple hours, I'm sure that I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. And or some kind of juice, something to kind of get things rolling, because I don't want any more pain. And she said, yep, sure, I'll put the order in, I'll be back shortly. So an hour went by, I didn't hear from anybody. Another hour went by, and I phoned the nurse, and I said, you know, did the laxative come in yet? Because I just have a feeling I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom soon, and I don't wanna run into any problems. And she said, you know, I don't know, because a different nurse came in, not the one that I initially requested the laxative from. So she came in, she said, no, I don't know, but I do need you to pee in a cup if you can. Do you think you can? And I said, I think I can. Yeah, I could do that for you. So I get up and I go to the bathroom, and then I can't get up. Guess what? So I have to go to the bathroom now. I can't get up. I am kind of freaking out on the inside because it's really bad pain. This back pain, like I was saying, if I sit still for too long, stand for too long, whatever it might be, I start to go numb on top of the pain. So when I'm numb, I can't, doesn't numb the pain. It numbs parts of my body, and then I can't address the pain, if that makes sense. So I am stuck here, and I have nobody there. There's no nurse there. I did already the urine sample for them, and they haven't picked it up. So I'm phoning the nurse frantically, and I'm like, please, somebody help me. I don't know what's going on. I'm experiencing horrible pain. Somebody finally comes. This is a totally different nurse. This is the third nurse within a matter of 2 hours. And I said, you know, I think I'm constipated, and I can't get up off this toilet, and I'm scared. Is there something you can help me with? And she said, I'll be right back. She leaves, she comes back with the laxative and like 3 containers of prune juice. And I said, this is the laxative that I requested like 3 hours ago from a different nurse. Where did she go? Like, I needed her. And she said, you know, she must have got busy. This has actually been waiting for you for the past hour, but nobody brought it to you, and I apologize for that. I'm here now, and I can give it to you right now. So I took the laxative, and I drank the 3 things of prune juice. I'm like, how fast does this work? I mean, when is it gonna start helping me? She said, honey, I don't know, but it should be okay. You just want to relax and just want to calm down and phone me if you need anything. So she left. I called my husband. I'm on the phone with my husband, and I'm like, I'm on the toilet. I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, like, a pain unreal hits me, and it's scary. Like, I'm like, oh no. Like, I think I'm going into labor. Like I said the whole time, my belly was hard anyways. I had all these weird symptoms. I'm like, I feel the urge to push, and I feel like I'm contracting because I don't think I touched on this to begin with. When I went in the hospital with the blood in my urine and they set me up with the monitors, I was contracting regularly, and I didn't even know that. So I'm contracting regularly, and then I have the need to push, and I'm freaking out, I'm crying, I'm praying, I'm like, Lord, please, I need you. I always need you. I need you now more than ever. I don't know what's going on. Please put my mind at ease. Please give me your peace. And I end up An hour and a half later on the toilet, I am done. I go to stand up, and I feel like inside out, if that makes sense. So I feel inside out, and I'm freaking out. I'm holding myself, and I walk over to the bed, and I sit down, I phone the nurse, and I have my husband on the phone at this point. And the nurse comes in, and I want to say that it wasn't the nurse I was expecting. I was expecting the really nice nurse, the sweetest pie nurse that came in and gave me the prune juice and the laxative, but no, it was the very first nurse that I ordered the laxative from to begin with. She's the one who came to my bedside, and I didn't want to talk to her really, you know. I don't want to say I was mad because I'm not like a confrontational person. I was just like, I knew that she wasn't capable of handling what I needed. Like she already writ her bye-bye, you know, to me. So I just said anyways, I said, I don't know if you remember, but I was the one that needed the laxative, and I just used the restroom. I was on the toilet for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I just went to the bathroom, and I feel like I'm inside out. Like, is this the baby? Am I miscarrying? What's going on here? I'm like stuttering and stammering, but quietly to her, because like I'm embarrassed for one. I'm embarrassed, and I feel very vulnerable. And she just looks at me and says, did you take your prune juice and the laxative? And I said, yes, I did. And she said, okay, well, I'm sorry about that, because I got caught up with some other things, and I totally forgot about that. But do you want me to check you? And I said, well, I feel like I need to be checked, but I don't really want to be checked. And I just like looked at her like saying, by you, but something's not right. And she said, well, why don't you just wait a few hours, because you might have experienced some kind of an abruption. So you're just going to want to wait a few hours. I'm getting your discharge papers ready. So just hold tight for me, and I'll make a doctor aware. I'm like, okay, all right, I could do that. So I'm figuring after all of this stuff that's happened from the last 48 hours that she's actually going to get the ball rolling now. Maybe she's finally going to step up to the plate and do her job, to be honest. So the job she hates, by the way. And thinking back, I don't know how she was my nurse for that long, because normally nurses switch out like shifts, you know, but she was there for a long time, from the beginning and then gone in the middle and then back at the end. I don't know, but that was unfortunate. So she comes back with discharge papers. I call my husband, and he's on his way to come get me. He shows up. I still haven't heard anything from that specific nurse talking about like what's going on down there. Probably 2-3 hours have passed. I'm waiting for my husband to come. He walks in the room, and then that nurse comes in right behind him with the discharge papers and says, okay, here are your discharge papers, all the test results. They came back negative. You don't have an infection. You don't have this. You don't have that. Your baby's perfectly healthy, by the way. He's perfectly fine. I'm sure the ultrasound tech told you, which she did. When the ultrasound tech lady came in, I got to see my little baby floating around in there. He was great. He was having a great old time. So I said, as long as my baby's okay, I can handle it. As long as he's okay, we're on good ground. So that kind of put my mind at ease with I'm not miscarrying. Just something was going on in there that I don't know about. And the doctors don't know about. She said, the doctor wants you to continue with these antibiotics, because even though you're showing no results of an infection, he wants to continue those so that just in case they miss something. And I said, oh, okay. And my husband shows up, and he's full of questions. And to this point, I was there, and I'm being discharged, granted. I have not seen a doctor. Not a doctor, not a specialist at all. So I thought that was kind of weird. I'm at the hospital, and I'm having contractions, I'm this, I'm that, and no doctor ever showed up. It's just the nurses. So it's kind of like through the grapevine, they tell me what the doctor's saying and whatnot. I didn't think that was right at all, especially I came in there very concerned. And so my husband starts talking to the nurse. He approaches her very nicely, and it's just like, what does this mean on the discharge papers? What happens if this happens? What do we do if this happens? What do I need to do for her when she's home? Because we don't want to end up back here in an hour. And he's hearing all the information from me secondhand through the phone. So now that he's in front of a nurse, he has all these questions. And she very rudely just points at the discharge papers and says, all the information you need is on there. If you have any other questions, just come back in. He's like, I don't want to leave and then have to come back in. So is there a doctor I can talk to?